Are you recording? Okay, good. This is Roofing 101. So a comprehensive approach to what you need to know about roofing, including Roofing Nailer 101. We've got our roof sheeted. Our OSB is down, nailed off every 6 inches on the perimeter, 8 inches through the field. Our subfascia is installed. So what we're ready for next is the underlayment. Usually we're gonna start with ice and water on the edge. 1 or 2 rows of ice and water depending on the code. So I've got a chunk of ice and water here that I would roll out. I've got a separate video that kind of shows how to handle this stuff because with the backing and the adhesive, it can become fairly tricky to work with, right? So what I wanna do, come over here on this side. When I roll out my ice and water, I either wanna snap a line across the top of the sheeting, which would be the width of the ice and water, which is 36 inches. So I've got a straight chalk line to set the ice and water to on the top, or I can set it even or flush with the bottom of my sheeting on the bottom edge here. Hammer tacker, and we're going to tack a circle in the center. Now I can peel back the underlayment backing on both sides here, make sure I'm good. I gotta overlap this way because it looks like I'll have to cut it to be straight. If it's not a straight start, and I'm going to let this slide for demonstration purposes, but we tack a circle in the center. And the reason for that is it allows it to pivot. When we roll it all the way down, we can pull this tight, pivot this if we need to, and get it lined up on the bottom before we tack it off completely. We don't want to tack it off until we pull all this underlayment back, the backing off, otherwise it's going to tear that backing and it just makes it a nightmare, okay? So then once we've got that lined up along the bottom and good, then we tack the top and the bottom. If it's hot out, this is going to stick. If it's not, you want to make sure that you staple it off so it doesn't slide. Iron it out a little bit. Okay, and for demonstration purposes, I've just got a partial sheet here. So we'll drop that off. We can trim this to the edge. In this case, if we were to the top of our ridge and we had to create a gap for ventilation, that goes to the ground. Okay, once we have this on, we need to put our drip edge on. Drip edge goes over the top of this. Drip edge comes in full sticks, a little bit awkward to handle. We want to flush this end up here on our eave side. Then we're going to mark down here for length, and we're going to cut that to length. I've got a mark already there. Tin snips. I'll show you a trick. If you are doing a gable like a peak, you can slit this in line with my mark here, just on the face side, vertical cut, and then you can overlap this without having to cut it, right? So that's a way to do an eave. In this case, I'm going to just make a straight cut all the way through here. Gotta go through the double layer last. This is a little bit more to chew through. Okay. How does this go on? It can be hand nailed. I would use a roofing nailer, okay? You're going to flush one end, make sure that it is tight and even with the surface. We really want to sight down this and make sure our drip edge is good. That's going to define our shingle edge. We could snap a line as well for the drip edge backside if our eave end or the end of our roof is not straight, okay? But that brings us to Roofing Nailer 101. So we're going to nail this on with a roofing nailer because it's fast. What do you need to know about this? It's pneumatic, most of them are. In order to load nails in, we're gonna open the carriage or the cassette here, and these are all a little bit different. Usually there's a lock of some kind on here, and in this case it flips open twice. Come on over here. Boss stitch, similar, not the same. The cassette is kind of all in one. Right now I've got 2-inch nails in here, and these would be for ridge cap, so they'd be too long. I want to take these out, and I'm going to put a fresh coil of nails in. They usually come with the rubber band on them. I noticed when I was grabbing this one that there's an 1.5-inch nail mixed in with the 1.25 inch. Who knew? We're going to use 1.25 inch nails because we have a new roof, so we're not shingling over old shingles or anything. So we want to peel this out. There we go. To get it started, get the rubber band out of there. It goes into the cassette, and then we want the nails to ride up in the top land or groove here. They get pulled forward and fired each time. In this case, this closes first, then our cassette door, and we're good to go. We should put a little bit of air tool oil in the end of this just for service sake. If we haven't, these have been oiled already. And then we need to find an air compressor and a quick coupler. Now, this is being taken care of. We're plugged in on the side of the building or to a compressor. We've also got air compressor 101 to set that up. But generally about 90, 95 PSI. Come in close on the coupler here. We want to pull the collar back, push and insert, and then push this collar forward, okay? To disconnect, pull the collar down, it releases. These have to be the same style coupler. That's oftentimes between automotive and industrial, they're different. We couple there, we're live and good to go, okay? You can run the gun 2 different ways. You can run it so that it will not fire unless you pull the trigger, or you can run it where when you pull the trigger, it will bump fire. So I've got my drip edge pushed up and tight, and I've got it flush with the end. I can punch a nail through there. Need to nail it off about every 16 inches, 2 foot. So that is bump firing right there, okay? Next layer is our starter course. Now, if you remember, we don't start with a full starter. And the reason for that is we want to stagger this joint. If I threw a full shingle on top of a full starter, now I've got a seam that's within 2 inches, and that's not good. So we're going to cut a starter. How do we do that? Shingle shear 101. Our friend the shingle shear, come on over. Come on over. It's just a paper cutter on steroids here. So we can slide down on this ruler. We want to go about a 20-incher for a start. So we're going to go to 20. Big thing with the shingle shear, we got to make sure it's pulled down to this edge. Can you show this leading edge here, or this lip? It cannot be sitting at an angle or we don't get a square cut. So we pull that down, go to our mark, then get up over on the top of the handle, pull in towards the inside and down, get over the top, chop. We got our 20-incher to start. This adhesive strip on the bottom is very important. What it does is it glues down the first layer so that the first layer of shingles can't lift up. That's why you have starter shingles, okay? So the starter, from what I understand, can be put flush to the drip edge. Okay, the first shingle is going to have that 1/4 inch overhang. So we're going to put this starter here flush, then we're going to nail it off. I nail pretty close to the bottom because this adhesive strip here is down towards the bottom and we don't want both of these lifting up. This is long enough that I'll put 3 in it. And then we would put in our second starter in order to run down the line, and we'd run starter all the way out to the end. Now for demonstration purposes, I'm going to cut this back so that I can show the underlayment and the drip edge. So something about right here. Down tight, chop it. That might not be enough actually. See if it covers. Oh yeah, that'll show. That's fine. Okay, we'll stick with it. So flush with the bottom edge again, nail this off. And then we go with our first row of shingles. Our first row is a full, okay? So we start with a full, we got a seam here. We're gonna make sure we're flush on the edge. Actually, come down here. We wanna overhang a 1/4 inch. Now, on this side. Some people will overhang more than that, or they'll just leave them run wild and then cut them afterwards. We can go overhang a 1/4, and then we wanna overhang a 1/4 on the bottom side too. And that is factory specification. Now, what is a 1/4 inch? Well, if you're not sure, push the tape measure against the drip edge and measure. That's a 1/4 there. That's a 1/4 there. We're tabbed up. Where do we nail? We got to stay above the white line. We want to go into the double. The double is where these are overlapped. There's a double thickness here, so we want to hit that white line, stay a little bit above it. We need 4 nails in every shingle. 1, 2, 3, and close to the end here, 4. Okay. Now we're going to cut our second row. This is where we begin to stagger. That first cut is a 29. This is going to be our second row and our 5th row. And since we're at it, we'll cut a 23 right away as well. Match number 29 and 23. Those are our 2 starter cuts. There we go. Okay, tabbing, super important. Where does the shingle get placed? This is called a sawtooth on architecturals, okay? It has to be tabbed down to the top of that sawtooth exactly, and on both sides or level. So one more time, I'm looking for the sawtooth. I bring it down to that, tabbed and tabbed. Now it's good. My overhang, I'm gonna maintain that 1/4 inch overhang. So I am flushing here. Can you see from good angle? Flushing here and tabbing right here to the sawtooth. Next layer, down, tabbing down to the sawtooth here. Make sure that I'm consistent. Good. That one's close. I'm close to a shiner. Tabbing down to the sawtooth. Flush on this end. 3 in there, and then I would finish with this last cut. Tab, nail it off, and then I would start with a full again, but I'd have to run all this out first, okay? What else right now? Jams you can usually work out right here. You'll just be able to pull those out. I think that's good for now. See